When I was 23, I trained for my first marathon. I'd been running 4 days a week for 4 months, and I only missed one run. At the time, I was working 10 to 12-hour days outside and still squeezing in my training, and it worked. But I don't know if it still would have worked out that way if I was in a different season of life. The plan worked because my life allowed me to execute it that way at the time. So the real question is, why do marathon plans fail? I don't think most of them are terrible. A lot of them are actually pretty solid. The issue is they're written for ideal conditions, and real life rarely looks ideal. Over the years, I've seen this happen over and over again. Here are a few patterns I keep noticing. Most plans steadily increase mileage, and that makes sense. The structure is helpful, especially if you're newer to running. You've probably heard of the 10% rule, the idea that you shouldn't increase your weekly mileage by more than 10% at a time. That's a useful guideline, but it's still just a guideline. Your body doesn't respond to percentages, it responds to total stress. Things like sleep, work, kids, age, and injury history, they can all play a factor. If life is calm and recovery is strong, you might be able to handle bigger jumps just fine. But if stress is high and recovery is low, one small increase could push you over the edge. If you're training for one marathon and you're willing to take more risk, sometimes you can be more aggressive. But if you want to be running well for years, not just for one race, you have to think differently. Usually that means giving yourself more time than you think you need. A lot of runners pick a race 12 or 14 weeks out and jump straight into a plan, even before they built their base. Then every week feels like you're just trying to keep up. That's when small aches start creeping in and fatigue stacks. Giving yourself more time allows progression to feel gradual instead of forced, and that's what keeps you healthy. If you're into this kind of practical breakdown, make sure you're subscribed. Every week, I try and keep it simple and useful. The second pattern I see is turning long runs into a test. Early in a build, you feel good, so it's tempting to push those runs a little further than planned. Maybe a 10-mile long run turns into 12, and then 2 weeks later, you're running 14. Or even sometimes we start turning long runs into racing simulations. The problem isn't pushing yourself occasionally. The problem is pushing before the durability is there. The purpose of the long run isn't to prove you can survive one big effort. It's to gradually build the durability that lets you handle the distance on race day. You're not trying to win one Saturday. You're trying to stack 10 or 12 steady long runs without breaking down. That's what helps you build confidence. The third issue is trying to play catch up. Most plans tell you what to do when everything goes perfectly. They don't always tell you what to do when something goes wrong. Let's say on a Tuesday, you miss a run because work runs late. So then you try and add back those miles on Wednesday. Then suddenly you're fatigued for the long run on the weekend, and now you're stuck in the game of trying to play catch up. Skipping one run won't ruin your marathon, but letting one skipped run turn into 3 or 4 might. Usually, making up missed miles creates more stress than it solves. Marathon training is supposed to be hard. You do have to put in the work, but good training allows for small adjustments without the whole thing falling apart. So what should you do differently? I say keep it simple. Focus on being consistent before chasing bigger mileage. Let your long runs build gradually instead of trying to prove something every weekend. And when life gets unpredictable, which it will, you adjust without panicking. If sleep drops or stress rises, you don't ignore it and you don't overreact. You just make the next smart decision. A good marathon plan should give you structure, but it shouldn't be so rigid that one imperfect week throws everything off. You don't have to execute the plan perfectly to have a strong race. You just have to keep showing up, make minor adjustments, and gradually build. If you do that, you should be fine. And if you want to know how I'd structure a marathon plan around that approach, just let me know. I'd be happy to put something together. I'll see y'all out on the next trail.